Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Savannah Lee May about A Cowgirl Song, which is available now. Thank you so much for doing this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
You know, we're in a time where music is kind of always around. People are using music for so many things. What's it kind of like working on a film where the film has a lot going on? There's a lot of themes about family and everything, but what's it like working on a film where music is a big focal point, Savannah?
Oh, it was the best experience. And, you know, I kind of had a little bit of experience with doing a project with music before, especially during a time where social media played such a huge factor.
Yep.
With Julie and the Phantoms, especially during a time during like COVID and everything, that was huge. Everyone was on their phones and on social media. So doing that first, I kind of got to see firsthand like how big music was impacting people now.
Yep.
And so when I got to do another project and get to do totally different genre of music and go into my like country upbringing, it was really special and I was super excited about it.
What is the mindset with this project specifically? Because like you kind of said, country music, you're working with a lot of amazing, talented people. What's the mindset when you're kind of joining this project?
You know, the first thing that really like jumped off the page at me was the character Haley itself.
Yeah.
I really connected with her on so many different levels. I mean, I'm from Texas, so can relate on a lot of different country things. I grew up with as my grandpa as a country singer, so even grew up with like that huge similarity. And, you know, I grew up with country music. I love it. I loved singing it. I play the guitar and I felt such a strong connection with her. So my mindset, like just going into the audition was like, just play like a super country version of yourself in a lot of ways. Add some different characteristics, of course, but it really did feel like I was just kind of playing a little bit of a different version of myself on this film. That was the mindset I really had like when going into the film.
I feel like you might have maybe certain like preparations or things that are kind of like maybe the same how you would approach any project, but it depends on the project, right? Like the mindset before. Yeah.
For sure. It definitely depends. I mean, I have, like you said, I have certain things that I like to do and certain ways to like prep for all of my different roles that I take on and everything. But for each and every role, it is a little different. Like I wouldn't approach the same like preparation process. I wouldn't approach it the same for Carrie on Julie and the Phantoms as I would for like Haley, because they're two totally different characters. But there's still like the similarities and things like that.
Yeah, they are very different.
I mean, like polar opposite.
That's cool though, right? To be able to do that.
It's like the most rewarding thing because in this business, there are a lot of people who can get typecast and who just kind of get put into this box. And so I've been super fortunate in my career to play every role I've taken on has been different than the last. And I'm so fortunate for that.
And, you know, Savannah Lee May, you're a storyteller. That's what you do. Is it safe to say that one of your favorite things about being a storyteller is that you're able to kind of dive into these worlds of Julie and the Phantoms and Night Squad, A Cowgirl Song? Like, is that one thing that kind of stands out? For
sure. That's one thing that when I go to take on a project, I like to look at the script and the world and the story as a whole. Yeah. And, you know, even if it's something as different as like Night Squad was set in this medieval time period, and now you've got like A Cowgirl Song that's set in now, but it's still like country and it's in Oklahoma, a small town. These different little aspects play such huge roles into the film. And then when I'm going to take a project on, and that's something that I definitely like look into and I like to really dive into and try and get a sense of the world that I'm joining.
It's so crazy. And a lot of projects too, because you mentioned in the beginning of the interview about like social media and resurfacing like shelf life. Like, I don't think Julie and the Phantoms is like ever going away.
I keep expecting like at a certain point for the buzz to like sort of die down.
Never.
It never does. And just when I think it's about to, I see all these like TikToks or tweets or Instagram posts and I'm like, what? Like, what's happening? It's been
You should like whenever you post something on social media, anyone who's on that show, even people that were on like 2 episodes,
Yeah.
they'll post something like on Instagram not related at all to the show.
And it's just flooding with comments about Julie and the Phantom. It's the most like insane thing I've ever witnessed. And it's honestly like such an honor to be a part of that.
Yeah.
To be a part of something that like resonates with so many people even now. It's
know.
we have like the most dedicated fans. It's crazy.
I feel like it's one of those things. We'll get back to a Cowgirl Song because I have more questions about that. But quickly about that, I feel like it's one of those things, Savannah, where I'm not surprised it was as big as it was. You know what I mean by that? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like I'm sure I know we never know, but I'm sure there was some talk when you were making it like, yeah, like people are gonna like these characters. You know what I mean by that?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're working with like the one and only Kenny Ortega, and he's only created hits after hits. I mean, part of you's like, I've got a good feeling about this. But I mean, we all knew we were creating something so special within our own like just grouping. Even if like it never got released, we all knew we created something special that resonated with us.
Yeah.
But then and we all kind of expected it to be well received to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Not to this. I don't think not one of us could have predicted this except for maybe Mr. Kenny Ortega himself. Maybe he predicted this, but honestly, I still think he's like floored half the time.
Yeah.
That this is still so relevant, and now it's crazy.
And it's the Netflix effect. It's like the global effect. And like, you know, Heartstopper is a show, like a young adult show that just launched. And I remember seeing the trailer for that like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, this is going to be massive. And it's like insane. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's tough because like, I just feel like you can kind of tell maybe. And like these characters that they create are just so dynamic in these shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very like smart marketing like tactic.
Yeah.
And then especially with like when they put together trailers and stuff, I feel like Netflix knows just what to do to hook people in, and it makes people want to tune in, and it's genius.
Absolutely. Getting back to A Cowgirl Song, I mean, you got to work, you had a lot of scenes of Darcy, and both of you are fantastic in this. This was her first, I believe, like acting like job, basically. This was her first film, yeah. Did you have a chance to kind of talk to her like over lunch or something, give her some advice or some words of wisdom? Did any of that ever happen?
You know, it happened quite a bit, and I'm such a person who like when I joined the business, I was so new, and my first project was with Nickelodeon, and it was on Night Squad. That was my first job.
That was your first project.
That was my first job, and I stepped into this working with all the same kids that like are my age and around my age, but all of them had worked before. Some of them on other series completely, some of just like other movies. So I was stepping in like so brand new. And
so you knew what it was like.
I knew exactly how it felt. I was around her age when I did it. And so I knew exactly what Darcy was feeling and her questions that she had and things like that. And so I think there were even times where like they would say something on set or use a phrase and she kind of was like, huh? And so then I would say like, oh, that's this. Like, like there's just a lot that she doesn't know. And I really felt that connection when I did that, you know, years ago. And so I really tried to like step up as like a real big sister in that moment. And I was like, I've got you, whatever you need, let me know. If you don't understand something, like talk to me about it. And if you want to like run a scene beforehand, I'm always the person wanting to run scenes before we film it. So just come up to me and let's run it a few times. Like I had lunch with her basically every single day in my trailer or like with the rest of the cast. But, you know, I really wanted to like help Darcy out in any way she could. And even
you also have a lot of scenes together too, right?
We do. And we had to create this like super strong bond and connection, which, you know, was so easy. I mean, Darcy and I relate to each other on hundreds of levels. It's crazy. I really do feel like we are the same person in a lot of ways. And I gained a real life sister out of it. So it was something that we really wanted to make sure we had this strong connection and bond for Brooke and Haley.
Is it an ideal project for you where you work on a project where the audience member will have like many different takeaways and can kind of take it in certain ways? Like they'll like the music component, they'll like the family component. You know what I mean by that? Like, are you driven to those type of projects where there's a lot of themes in the air a little bit?
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always driven to those types of projects because when it's just like one theme that really tackles it, I feel like sometimes that's like really easy to gain as an audience member, but the projects that have multiple themes and multiple things you can take away from it, those are the ones that I really want to take on, and the challenge that I really want to try and portray each and every single one of those themes within the project, for sure.
What was it like? Because the movie's been out for like a week now, because I believe it came out on the 22nd, I believe, of April, right? So it's been out for a little while. What's that week like before it's out, where you're talking to everyone, where you're seeing kind of the press? Like, I'm just curious about that, because you worked on this project, like you put everything in this project, and then it's finally coming out, The Calm Before the Storm. What's that like the week before it's out, Savannah?
I mean, I feel like every project it's different, and depending on like what's happening in your normal life as well and things like that. So I was very like, it's always chaotic in some shape or form. It's always chaotic. But with A Cowgirl Song specifically, I had my like 1 year anniversary trip with my boyfriend coming up, and so then it was like we were planning for that, and then also like there was a premiere in Oklahoma, so then we flew out to Oklahoma to do that. I had a press day, like so chaotic. I think it was like the most chaotic thing that I've like before a project has come out. That's the most chaotic time I've ever had. And so we were constantly like moving, and I was like interviews, and then the red carpet premiere, and then like seeing the cast again, and then traveling, and so it was like so chaotic. But then the day it came out, I was like chilling, and then I was like, okay, I can breathe.
I find that very interesting because, we are still in a pandemic, but it's not where it is. It's like people are going out more now and everything, you know what I mean? But when Julie and the Phantoms came out, that was like pandemic. So like
literally?
So you're doing Instagram lives, you're doing interviews, you don't really have anywhere to go.
No.
So now it's
not
like,
at all.
So now it's like doing all these interviews as well. And like, there was a time where we were doing a lot of interviews, like March 2020, and then like a little bit in 2021. And then at one point, the interview like bandwidth, it went down because more people were going back to work and going places. You know what I mean? Yeah, so
exactly.
that's like completely different as well. Like the different things, right?
So different. I mean, I remember when we were doing like press and getting ready for Julie and the Phantoms to come out. I remember like all of this, it was so simple. I would just get up and get ready, and then I would just literally sit in this exact spot, do a few interviews, and then like eat food at the house. And that was it.
Yeah.
And I remember specifically there was one video we all did for Cosmopolitan, I believe. And it was like a dance TikTok challenge. And literally, because we're in a pandemic and I'm in like an apartment, so I couldn't like go outside to my backyard and film it. I literally took apart my bed like piece by piece and had to move it into our living room to then make enough room to film that TikTok video. And I remember being like, I just know if the like pandemic wasn't happening, like I would have never thought to do this. This is crazy. It's so wild how different it is.
I just feel like, Julian Phantom's, Outer Bank, there's like a crop of those, like, we're calling them pandemic shows.
No, literally. We were like the pandemic binge shows. That was literally that group. And I remember like Outer Banks like broke the mold for that.
Outer Banks, I just want to tell you something quickly. Outer Banks is the show, because I've been doing the show since like 2015, 2016. And you get the odd cool guest here and there and the views, right? And you do it like on the side. Outer Banks is the reason Popternative is the outlet it is now. Like,
no way.
We interviewed like Rudy Pankow and Drew Starkey, and then like just like hundreds of thousands of views, and then more pitches. Like, it was crazy. So that show holds a good place in my heart.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like pandemic had just started, like lockdown had just hit, and then it seemed like everyone in the world was talking about Outer Banks.
Yeah.
And so I remember when we found out that Julie and the Phantoms was still coming out during the pandemic time, I was kind of like, that's crazy. Like, this is gonna be weird. Now, like, Outer Banks was stupid popular, and our show like still grows constantly with the popularity, but it was still just to experience like even like a fourth of what they did. It was still absolutely insane to experience it.
I remember it came out like on a Friday, and I interviewed Drew Starkey on the Tuesday, who plays Rafe, and it was like one of the biggest things ever. And like they all had it was so weird. It's like
crazy.
It came out Friday and it's Tuesday. Like, you know what I mean? And I remember too, but Julie and the Phantoms, like Charlie, I'm pretty sure did like so many interviews all the time for that.
Yeah. I mean, the entire, like, all the main four, they were constantly doing interviews. Every time I like just opened up Instagram, I saw them posting a new interview they had done. And I was like, oh my God, this is blowing up. It's everywhere.
It is everywhere. Before we wrap up A Cowgirl Song, when they get to watch it, obviously you hope they enjoy it and everything, family movie. What are you hoping they get out of it specifically, takeaway wise, Savannah, when they get to watch it?
You know, I hope they really take away like the few big messages that the film really portrays. It's about family and being there for one another and never giving up on them, but it's also about following your dreams
Yep.
and, you know, never giving up on yourself too. That's a huge theme on it.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
with Haley that she really had to overcome and, you know, get past that fear of stage fright and realize like this is what I'm meant to do and I love it and I just got to do it. And so I really hope people take that away from the film for sure.
Absolutely. Savannah, thank you so much for coming on Popternative. It was great chatting with you.
It was so awesome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So the movie's out now, so you can check that out. Where can people follow you on social media to keep updated with everything? Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and it's all my full name, Savannah Lee May.
The reason I laughed is I just picture all the Julie and the Phantoms interviews. This has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Till next time, this is Savannah Lee May and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.